like I brought up at the start of the show, me and Sage, we grew up on these teams. We grew up on these Jim Harbaugh teams. I rooted for him the entire time that he was at Michigan because of what he did. And it's a little bit harder now that he's the Chargers head coach. But I don't know, Sage. All these emotions came back to me when I see him coming back to the Bay Area this week. And I don't know. It just seems like these Jim Harbaugh teams were among the most physically – hold on. Give me 1 second, Sager. Carry your thoughts a little bit about these Jim Harbaugh teams.
Well, I got to be like fucking the guy from Breaking Bad eating food alone here, Chase. I mean, listen, the thing about Jim Harbaugh is, like Chase was alluding to, is that it ended so poorly that I feel like he just never got the respect he deserved. It ended with management, like with Jed York, the feud between him and Balky, that it was just kind of, a sour taste and people were ready to turn the chapter. It feel like he, ran his course. Chase, welcome back. I hope it was an important call, but
who
like
has a house phone anymore, Sage? Who has a house phone anymore? There's literally no use for it. I swear to God. It's only for the old family members. That's literally it.
But I have it muted. No, I didn't know where you were taking it. So I just try to give some background on it, just saying it was just one of those things where it never got appreciated as we feel like it should. I mean, it was 4 years, really 3 years. And the last year, like you go into that last year knowing Harbaugh's done and looking back on it, like,
okay. Yeah.
I was saying, like, looking back on it, like that era, that mini, like, time in 49ers history does not get remembered as fondly as I believe it should.
No, it shouldn't, Sage, because this was the first taste of winning football. I think it was since 2002. I mean, I came into the scene around 2005. At that point, you basically had Alex Smith, who was your number one overall pick. Seemed like he was a bust. At that same time, you have Aaron Rodgers, who you passed up. Kid straight out of Chico. Went to school across the bay in Berkeley. I think he just came off a Super Bowl MVP when Jim Harbaugh came into the scene. But, yeah, it really was a situation where the legacy of the 49ers was the team of the 80s, right? With Joe Montana, Bill Walsh, the teams that revolutionized football. But it just felt like our generation before Jim Harbaugh, we didn't have anything going. We didn't have anything to really hold our hat with. And Jim Harbaugh is always going to be a big part of my fanhood as a 49ers as a 49ers fan because of what he did. But Sage, let's start all the way back here. So we brought it up a little bit. I wanted to dive into the situation that was happening with the 49ers before Jim Harbaugh got there. I think their last playoff appearance was in 2002, all the way up until 2011, 46-82. Sage, were you around for the Mike Nolan days at all?
So that was like my first introduction. First introduction is where I started to understand like what football was. I think I was 7 when he left. So it was like very brief. I just heard the stories,
Yeah. So Sage, basically all that you need to remember from the Mike Nolan era, this guy basically maybe like one every 3 games would just wear a suit on the sidelines, and we would get our dicks kicked in every week. Alex Smith just was going from coordinator to coordinator every year. It didn't look good. I mean, Sage, in 2005, I have right here, Football Outsiders ranked them as actually the worst team in NFL history. But they got the 6th pick in the draft because they beat the Houston Texans in week 17, which gave the Houston Texans the first overall pick, and the 49ers got the 6th pick. So they were so bad that they were the worst team in NFL history, but also messing themselves up and not even getting the first pick. So that entire Mike Nolan regime was a joke. You probably got more into the scene with Mike Singletary. I feel that's when everybody was really into it in our age group.
I was going to say, that's when I started to come around. I feel like, just like what you mentioned, I feel like around 10 years old, which is right. I think he started 2009, right? So that's kind of right when I came into the scene. That's when, it started to turn around. You started to actually get some talent on the team. You could see some positivity towards his end there, right? Like the famous dispute with Vernon Davis. Like just
there was a lot of stuff out there, Sage. People liked Mike Singletary at the start of it.
Yeah, and he's a respected guy, right? Like he was on the 85 Bears, like one of the best linebackers, right, of all time, or of his era, I should say. And I feel like he commanded the locker room. He kind of, cleaned it up to say the least. Mm-hmm. And he was a guy that people respected. He was a good interview. It seemed like the Bay Area loved him. He sort of started to build the foundation of what the Niners were, right? Like, I don't want to say it was like a Mark Jackson, Steve Kerr thing, but I feel like there's some parallels there.
Yeah, I remember when Singletary came in. Obviously, I think Mike Nolan got fired around week 8 of that 2008 season. Singletary comes in and immediately, right, just has that Vernon Davis incident. I mean, it's historic. It's classic. Can't
Yeah,
win with him. Can't play
can't
with
play
him.
with him.
Can't do it. And you get a lot of the fan base on his side. He finishes the next year 8-8, and that 2010 year is basically where everything crumbled. I just felt like Mike Singletary was good in front of the media, had control of the locker room in a sense, but was probably the worst X's and O's coach of all time. I mean, the team just felt like they didn't know what they were doing. I got Jimmy Ray II was the offensive coordinator. It was like laughable how bad this offense was. And you look back on those years and you think, okay, Mike Singletary wasn't that bad, but you brought this up earlier, Sage. This team had talent. But they were just such bad coaches that I felt like nobody knew it. I mean, looking right here, Scott McClellan. Have you ever heard of the name Scott McClellan?
Just now I did.
Okay, so this is something that I had to dive a little bit deeper into, but this guy was the GM before that 2010 year where Singletary gets fired and you get set up with Harbaugh, but he was basically the guy who drafted this entire core. I mean, you had Frank Gore, I believe, which was third round 05, Vernon Davis, first round 2006, Patrick Willis, Joe Staley, Deshaun Goldson, brings in Justin Smith, Michael Crabtree. So this was basically the GM who built the Jim Harbaugh teams, but Sage, major alcoholic. Have you never heard about this story?
No.
So basically, I think he left the 49ers mutually. So it was one of those mutual partings in 2009. Severe alcoholic, and got a job for the Washington Redskins in 2014. You know Seth Wickersham, the guy who came out with that story about Brady? Yeah. So he did a tell-all article on the return of Scott McClellan, and apparently to do this interview, they sat down at a bar, and McClellan was telling him, he's like, I figured out my situation. I'm back with my wife and kids. What I really needed to do, I needed to stay away from the hard alcohol. Now I know that if I just stick to beer, that I've never had an issue in my life with beer. Sage, 4 years later, gets a DUI and gets fired from the Washington Redskins. But yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it seems like that's the first step in every alcoholic's mind is that you got to, try and single out just part of it. And then it always leads to a darker road. But going back to what you were saying about the Singletary thing, right? Like before he departed, everything about it was like, you saw it, right? Like you saw it, like you read off that list, like even you just running through it and seeing like Joe Staley, maybe not a Hall of Fame left tackle, but one of the best left tackles in franchise history. You got an all-time linebacker in Patrick Willis, underrated safety and secondary play. I mean, the trenches were built. You have an all-time running back in Frank Gore, and you're still one of the worst teams in the league. It just makes no sense. One of the things that Jim Harbaugh kind of tapped into, inherited, and was able to take to the next level.
No doubt. I mean, let's just get into it right now, Sage. So, like you brought up, after that 2010 year, you fire Mike Singletary. The Yorks are coming off, I think, about around 10 years of ownership, and they're at their all-time low. You have Candlestick Park, which we loved it, but in all honesty, it was a piece of shit stadium. They were trying to build that stadium down in Santa Clara, but there was really no juice going with the franchise, right? So we all know what happened. The Yorks just looked a little bit down that 101 South. You had Jim Harbaugh at Stanford. I don't know if people remember how incredible what Jim Harbaugh did at Stanford was, but Sage comes in 2007. Stanford in 2006 was like the doormat of the Pac-12. They went 1-11, played USC with Pete Carroll at home at Stanford Stadium, got shut out 42-0. So do you remember the Stanford team at all, how bad they were, or were you not really in the scene then?
No, I was definitely not on the scene for Stanford football in 2009.
Like Stanford football was not a thing. Like in 06, like I feel like later in like 2015, like we saw Stanford as a team that was competing for Rose Bowls. They were not until Jim Harbaugh got there. Sage comes in immediately, just erases all the traditions in Stanford. He's like, you guys went 1-11. You haven't been good for 20 years. You don't deserve any traditions. You're a terrible football team. Comes in, I think they were 41-point underdogs. They played USC again at Stanford. Won 45-28. I think it's the biggest upset in NCAA history. And that's what led to the entire Pete Carroll, Jim Harbaugh started that rivalry with the what's your problem talk at the middle of the sideline.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of like where I pick up from it is when it like the Seattle era of the Harbaugh thing, like, and now it's back with Carroll in Vegas and Harbaugh and Chargers. They have like a fondness for each other, right? That they can't keep themselves away from one another.
It's almost like a Joker and a Batman situation where it's like we're just destined to like duel each other out for the rest of the time.
Yeah,
Kind of thing with Carroll and Harbaugh.
Who would you say historically has the upper hand? It's got to be Carroll, right?
It's got to be Carroll. Be Carroll. But at this time with Stanford, he kind of had the upper hand. Clearly, Carroll had already had a lot of success at USC, but he really started getting that program jumping after that stage. I think in his last year, they went 12-1. We know what he built up. He had that smash mouth defense, run game with Andrew Luck as his quarterback. Their only loss was to your alma mater, Sage. I don't know if you knew that. At Autzen Stadium, Oregon. That was the year they lost to Cam Newton and Auburn in the national championship. Finished 4th, won the Orange Bowl. Then Jim Harbaugh took the job. I remember, Sage, that was probably the best person they could have hired. It just felt right at the time. And, I mean, he's right there in Stanford. He's coming off a situation where he revitalized the program at USD. Stanford had not been a good football program basically ever or since John Elway. And this guy had them as one of the best football teams in the country in the span of 3 years. So this felt like everybody was behind the hire for sure.
I mean, so coming into it, right? Because he was a Bay Area guy, people saw what he built, and it just felt like it was right in your backyard where people trusted him. And you understood like the potential that he had with this roster and what he had done with Stanford. It felt like it was just a perfect marriage. Like I remember when he got hired, how hyped everyone was about it. Like it was kind of, there's going to be parallels that we draw to, but it was similar with Shanahan. Like when the Niners were able to get Kyle from the Falcons and, bringing Jim over from the college scene, it just felt like, okay, this is going to work. This just feels good. And it's someone you trust to hand the keys to your organization to.
Absolutely. And then you start that 2011 year stage, you get Allen Smith in the first round. Also, something that's going to really become important when we talk a little bit deeper, you draft Colin Kaepernick in the second round. So at this moment, I don't think that Alex Smith was locked in as a starting quarterback, but you saw right away in that press conference that Harbaugh came out. He's like, Alex Smith's our quarterback. I trust in Alex Smith. I think that he just had a bad rap with the struggles that he had. I think he had about 6 offensive coordinators all the way up until 2011. It was something crazy, like 6 different offensive coordinators in the first 7 years. But Sage, he gets humming right away. I think they go off to a 9-1 start. The game that I remember the most at the start was clearly that Week 6 game against Detroit. What happened at the end of that game?
The Jim Schwartz game?
Yeah, I mean, that I think was the moment where every 49er fan was like, okay, we got something going here. We're 5-1. The defense is looking great. Alex Smith is coming back. And then the after the game stuff with Jim Schwartz. Everybody was on his side.
Oh, yeah, everyone was on. I mean, he was just fired up. I mean, breaking down the game. I mean, it's an all-time game. Clearly, like, emotions are high. Great finish.
The Detroit game's all-time game?
I mean, right, because he was hyped at the end. I'm just saying, like, for Harbaugh, like...
I think it's the last moment. I think it's basically the last moment that gave everybody remembrance of that game. I don't think it was the game that people remembered.
And then you have, like, all the memes and everything that came out of it. And I feel like it just fueled, like, another rivalry with Schwartz and Harbaugh. That would, like, just carry over. And it seems like
go ahead.
There you go.
Well, I'm basically just saying, I think that it was actually, it was an insane move by Harbaugh. I think that Jim Schwartz was totally in the right looking back on it. I think every 49ers fan was like, fuck you. Like, you're a pussy, like, to Jim Schwartz. Like, why are you going after Harbaugh? I mean, the guy is, like, jumping for joy. He's, like, jumping, chest bumping Alex Boone, meets him at the middle of the 50, and just gives him, like, the hardest handshake ever and a slap on the back. Like, Jim Schwartz, I think, is, like, a 5'10" guy. Jim Harbaugh's, like, a big, like, mountain man. You can't just, like, take that on your home field and not do something about it. So I feel like everybody had Jim Harbaugh's back, but it was honestly, like, the craziest move that I've ever seen, what he did.
Yes, I just had to pull it up. So 49ers were trailing going into the fourth quarter. I mean, they end the game 10 unanswered it is, right? And I just think he was hyped because the team was humming. You go 5-1. I mean, 3-0 on the road. And obviously, like, he's an emotional guy. Like, we'll get into it, like the flaws of Jim Harbaugh, like how he, like, kind of rubbed people the wrong way towards the end. But that was just one of the things, is like he built a culture and he had fire to him that, like, it was just contagious. Like he had the fans believing, right? Like, and that was kind of the moment where, like, this guy's not backing down. Like, this guy's not a bitch. And he's going to go right. Like, he's going to go for the top. Like, you're going to ride with him and he's going to just, like, be the guy that you follow into war.
So they start off 9-1. Like you brought up with that, it seemed like the team took his personality. And that was something that stood out. That defense, I don't think they let up a rushing touchdown until week 16 against the Seattle Seahawks. It was something crazy like that. You had Justin Smith, who was basically going through a mid-career explosion. He had a couple good years with the Bengals, but he turns into a first-time All-Pro. And we all know that linebacking core. I mean, I still think that's the best linebacking duo I've ever seen with Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis.
I was just saying, that was the best defense of my lifetime. Like, I don't like of my
It's
Niners
there,
fandom.
dude.
Of my Niners fandom. That's the best defense. I think you just couldn't run the ball on them. Not only that, like, it was old school football. Like, they're going to take you out. They're going to kill you. You have Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis, like two guys who complement each other so perfectly with the way that they played. And you had that front line. Like, it was just like peak football. Like you said, they didn't allow a rushing touchdown until week 16 at Seattle against Marshawn Lynch. And people just couldn't move the ball on them. They just dominated the trenches, had the personality of Harbaugh, and they were just tough, man.
Well, it was just like a team that was playing complementary football, right? Because you had that defense who basically didn't give up an inch the entire season. The weakness was the secondary, but it was a weakness except for the fact when the safeties knocked the living shit out of you after you caught the ball. It was just a defense that beat you up. And the offense, right from the jump, you could kind of see that he had shackles on Alex Smith a little bit. He knew that he had struggles, and we always made jokes about it a little bit, but Alex Smith was really the check down guy, the throw it out of bounds guy. They really just wanted to run the ball with Frank Gore behind that big O-line, maybe hit a couple passes of Vernon Davis, but just score enough points because you knew that defense wasn't going to give up more than 20 any game. And they basically did that the entire regular season all the way throughout.
They went 13-3 by just playing we're not going to beat ourselves football, right? Like, minimize the turnovers, kind of similar to what the Chargers did last year, right? Like, it's reflective, like it's carried over, but we're just not going to turn the ball over. We're going to lean on our defense and our run game, which is funny. Like, one thing that I always think about with Harbaugh is, like, he's a quarterback or an ex-quarterback, right? Playing in the NFL, wasn't like terrible as a quarterback, but he's always known for his defense, right? Like, he's always the type of guy where his team is built on the defense and the run game, which is just like that old school football that he's kind of sort of bringing back now. And I think, like you said, it was perfect complementary football. You have absolute killers on the defense, biggest team, like scariest team ever. And on the other side, you just, like, are able to create this dominant run game with Frank Gore, which we'll get into later, of how he was able to improve it, take it to the next level once he changed the quarterback. And he just built the perfect system and scheme around what he had.
And I think something, too, the reason why this team was so connected to Jim Harbaugh is because before that, everybody saw the Niners as that finesse team. They saw them as the West Coast football team, the team that had Joe Montana, Jerry Rice going downfield. They were never really a smash mouth football team, right? We get that West Coast designation, but it just seemed like when Harbaugh came in, he brought his own mentality, shifted everything, and you could see it. They go 13-3. They get the 2-seed stage. You got to say that the divisional against the Saints is probably, I think it's still to this day, I think it's still my favorite 49er playoff win. I'm not kidding you. I really do.
The catch 3 game. I mean, that is all time. Just like the back and forth of it. You have, like, even though you give up a lot of points to the Saints, you still have key defensive moments. The fumble at the 2, the Jimmy Graham, like, back and forth to Vernon Davis.
So Sage, this is the thing. I think a lot of people forget how freaking good the Saints team coming in was, because the Niners had the home field advantage, but Sage, Drew Brees had 5,500 yards that season. 5,500. I don't think
2011 too.
2011. I mean, this is actually 15 years ago. The entire NFL has gone to a way more pass-happy scheme, but he had 5,500 touchdowns, 5,500 yards, 46 touchdowns, and yeah, I mean, it was a crazy back and forth game, like you brought up, the entire way.
We were just mentioning, like, how crazy that defense was, and they were able, I wouldn't say they moved the ball with ease, but they kind of moved the ball with ease on that defense, like, all game long. And it felt like they were going to lose. Like, it just felt like at the end, like, we couldn't keep them from scoring. I know Jimmy Graham broke off that long touchdown, but I mean, the Alex Smith bootleg, the catch by Vernon Davis, just like all the like key moments in that game. Like you can break it down if you had to pick like it's a movie, like your favorite scene. Like what was your favorite play? Like there's like 15 you could choose from that game.
Well, I think the last 5 minutes of the game is really what made it, right? Yeah, you had that drive where you think that the 49ers win the game with the Alex Smith bootleg. I feel like you're not giving the Jimmy Graham touchdown enough credit. They have 2 minutes left on the clock, and you're thinking like, okay, like they need
it was dumb, bro. They scored too quick.
Well, no, but they needed a touchdown. I think they were down by 4, so it wasn't a situation where they needed a field goal to tie it or anything. Like they needed a touchdown, and 75-yarder just right off the jump gets that ball. I think it was Deshaun Golson tries to go in for the big hit. He just eats it and runs 50 yards. So you kind of thought that was over, but yeah, then Alex Smith just leads that drive, and it caps off in the Vernon Davis touchdown. Yeah, what do they call that? The catch 3. He jumps into Harbaugh's arms. First home game, I think, at Candlestick in 10 years. So
playoff game.
Yeah, you can see it. I mean, if you look at the atmosphere.
Yeah.
With that crowd at Candlestick. I mean, that was the future game. We didn't even think about that.
That was
we didn't even think about future hyping up the team beforehand. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the best moments of that game for me as well.
I think that's what lives on further than even the game. I think that amongst Niners fans, I think more Niners fans these days know about the future clip than saying the new age. I'm saying the new age Niner fans.
I don't know about that.
The future clip,
it definitely is a big legacy of that game.
I think more people have seen that future clip than have seen the Vernon Davis catch. Since 2020, I'd say. I'd put that. I'd go out.
If only we had like a producer here stage where we could like throw up the analytics on that, we could probably get in there. But
it's like since 2020, since the pandemic, I think that clip has been viewed more times than the Vernon Davis catch.
Maybe.
Not a hot take.
What I will say is though, it just seemed like the Niners were back. I mean, you had Future hyping them up. We had never seen this, and I remember there was a bunch of YouTube clips coming up where it was like highlights of Joe Montana, like sketched into basically the end of the video, which was the Vernon Davis touchdown. It was basically like the 49ers that we remember are back after 10 years of complete hell. And then you also have a home field game for the NFC Championship. You get the New York Giants, who I think were 9-7. I don't know how deep we want to get into this one stage. We kind of know the situation. It was basically just an old school NFL game that you're never going to see. Just smash mouth, rainy day at Candlestick, and it was really just decided by one player.
Yeah, the Kyle Williams game. It'll go down as the most infamous game of the Jim Harbaugh era. Would you agree with that, or would you say the Super Bowl is worse? I feel like it has to be the Kyle Williams
game. It has to be the Super Bowl. It has to be the Super Bowl.
You'd say that's more infamous than the Kyle Williams game. I feel like the Super Bowl, it was like a culmination of shit, and they had a chance
that
to
Super
win
Bowl,
it.
so much shit happened, Sage.
Yeah.
When I'm looking back on it,
let's
that's
stay here.
for
Let's
sure
stay
the
here.
game that I remember.
Let's stay here for a bit.
Yeah, no, I know.
I would just say, like, one thing like that you just like look back and see is like the Giants stifled the Niners offense. Like they could, for as much as the Niners just like absolutely ate Eli Manning, like the Niners could not move the ball on the Giants. It was just like you said, old school, just like cold weather night game where it was just basically decided by one guy fumbling the ball twice. And that was that.
And I think you got to look at it this way too. Even though that was a heartbreaking loss, I think everybody felt like this team was going to be around for at least 5 years. This was just the start of something great. I mean, first year he comes in 13-3, already has a badass team set up. But something that was going on, Sage, you brought up. Alex Smith had a very bad game that game. And Jim Harbaugh already came in, had a lot of faith in Colin Kaepernick, drafted in the second round. I think that's where he really started getting those ideas that we're going to see coming up in that next year, where he's saying, okay, we have a great offense. We have a great offensive line. We got great weapons, but maybe Alex Smith is holding back this offense to what it can be.
100%. 100%. I mean, you saw it. The fan base wasn't like sold on Alex Smith being the guy, right? Like he kind of disappointed early. I think his first year, he had like 1 touchdown, 11 interceptions, something crazy. Never really came to his own. It felt like sometimes, like with Brock Purdy, right? Or like a guy like Bo Nix, where you try to like argue, like, is he good or is he a product of Sean Payton? Is he good? Is he a product of Kyle Shanahan? You kind of knew with Alex Smith, like he was kind of a product of Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh, right? Like in this environment, like he thrived. So I feel like the fan base, like they got behind him. They wanted to see him succeed. He was a good guy. But at the end of the day, they never were fully bought into him. Like how some Niners fans are fully bought into the quarterback now.
I don't know. From what I remember, it was pretty split because Sage, the next year, they basically jump right where they left off. I think they start off 6-2. Obviously, Alex Smith gets hurt in that. I believe they were playing the Rams at Candlestick, and it ended in a tie. So it was one of those OT games where just nobody scored. It ended in a tie. Alex Smith gets concussed, and you just don't really think about it because the next week is where Kaepernick has his debut on Monday Night Football against the Chicago. They were playing the Chicago Bears. He just lights it up. I think I have the stats right here, but they win 32-7. This is a quote from Harbaugh. Usually tend to go with the guy who's got the hot hand, and we got two quarterbacks who got the hot hand. This is coming off of one game with Colin Kaepernick. Meanwhile, Alex Smith led you to a 13-3 season and a 6-2 start to this season. So I think when everybody heard that, it's like, okay, what's going on here? Kaepernick comes in for one game, and now it's a situation where there's a quarterback dilemma.
Yeah, I mean, but leaning to what you said, right? Harbaugh always wanted to do this. And this was just the opportunity where the door kind of creeped open a bit. He played well. I mean, he had the moment. He took advantage of it, played well, and Harbaugh had it as an excuse. Like he could fall back on it, get the fans behind it. I mean, he saw the vision, right? Like he knows the style of offense Greg Roman wants to play. He knew the type of defense he had, and having a running quarterback with a howitzer can just unlock your entire scheme and just take you to that next level that you even said it, right? Like Alex Smith was kind of being coddled in that offense. They were holding him back.
He was.
We want you to just play mistake-free football. Why wouldn't we want to substitute that for someone who could elevate this offense? I mean, when Kaepernick came into the league, like he kind of took the league by storm. He was the Beats by Dre guy. Like he had the little pose and he kind of had that swag to him. As they say, like he actually had aura to him. And I feel like everyone kind of got behind it and respected the decision.
It was almost like a situation, Sage. I know you're a fan of the movie Vice, but Harbaugh using that Alex Smith concussion to put in Colin Kaepernick for the entire season was kind of like using 9/11 to go into Iraq. It's like, okay, I don't know if this really connects to a situation where we need to invade Iraq now, but they're just like, hey, fuck it. We're going to use this as an excuse. We're going all in. But like you brought up, Sage, Colin Kaepernick really did hit the league by fire. Before then, what was the big example of a running quarterback that we saw? It was like maybe a Michael Vick.
I mean, it had to be Mike Vick.
It was Mike Vick, but there was nothing like Kaepernick, man. I mean, he would take the ball. No one would be within 10 yards after he passed the line of scrimmage, and it really did open up something for this team. I think a lot of people were connected to Alex Smith because he was that rookie that you drafted in 2005. You saw him go through so many hardships, but even though there was a little bit of that feeling that you felt bad for Alex Smith, everybody kind of did know, okay, this offense looks completely different with Kaepernick. We're just so much more explosive, and it really did look like they were unstoppable with that defense too.
Oh, 100%. I mean, he took that team to the next level. Like, absolutely opened up the offense. It felt like if they didn't have anything, he could run. He could get the ball into tight pockets whenever, like, he needed to. And they were able, I mean, like you said, like, what really was the running quarterback before that, right? Like, the read option, the triple option, whatever it was that they could, draw from him. It was new. Like, teams didn't know how to defend against it. And it was something that it always takes a year for the league to adjust to, that once he was able to kind of get into the role, right? Like he's a rookie or figuring it out, or second year, but first time starter figuring it out. And now it's like teams have to adjust to it. They're expecting Alex Smith. Now you got to deal with Colin Kaepernick. Like it's night and day with it. And you just had the advantage for that season. Like the entire season, you had that advantage in your hand.
So Harbaugh basically every week is talking to the press. He's saying that it's a situation where they have two quarterbacks. Kaepernick's the hot hand, so we're going to go with it. They go on an entire run, finish second in the NFC again. Save some memorable games right when Kaepernick came in. That Sunday Night Football game at Foxborough.
That's the all-time. I think that's the best one, in my opinion.
That's one of the all-timers. Goes up 31-3, and then you knew that Brady was probably going to mount a comeback, but they still find a way. I think they won 41-34. That's a great game to look back on.
Going into Foxborough, I mean, because that was that era of Patriots, right? Where it was like the hard. So that was fun. I mean, a lot of Niners fans were thinking like if they had beaten the Giants the year before, this would have been the Super Bowl matchup. Like, let's see how we would have fared against them. Like, I felt like there was a lot of implications in that game. Like, how legit are you, right? Like, what's the narrative on Bill Belichick? Is that he eats? I know he wasn't a rookie, but he eats like young quarterbacks up. And Kaepernick went in there, absolutely balled out. And the defense kind of in that first half made Tom Brady look pedestrian. Like they were all over him, caused a couple turnovers, I think, and they kind of like stamped their legacy. Like not their they stamped themselves as like, okay, we're legit. This is our quarterback, and like we can't be fucked with right now.
Yeah, the Patriots were the measuring stick. They dominated the NFL for 20 years. That was right in the middle of that entire run. And that first half, it honestly looked like they were playing a peewee football team. It was 31-3. They came back, yes, but I think after that game, you really thought, okay, this 49ers team is the best team in football. That's what I thought. Another game that was a little bit memorable, Sage, for the opposite reason, Thursday night football game, 42-13 loss to the Seahawks. So this was the year that Russell Wilson was the rookie. It really was the moment for me where it jumped out saying, okay, this Niners team is great, but for some reason, there's something going on here in Seattle too. They had Earl Thomas, a young Cam Chancellor, Richard Sherman, Marshawn Lynch, and Russell Wilson running the offense. That was a moment where we were feeling really good, but it's like, okay, what the hell happened there?
That was just like, I'll never forget that game. Like it was off by the first half, just like an absolute domination ass kicking. I feel like that's where the rivalry sort of started to spark, right? Because so the Niners, they ended up, they fell behind that game, or what was it? Because they were racing for the 1 seed or for the division, right, that year. And I think so that's that's what had like put Seattle above them. And I just think like at the time, like Seattle kind of always has had our number, and that's where you were just like, okay, like there's like an equal here. Like you dominated whoever you dominated in the AFC, but in the NFC now, like there's someone you could look at and be like, okay, like they're the team to beat now.
Yeah, so I think the Seahawks came on a little bit towards that second half of the year. I don't think they were really ever in contention with the Niners for the NFC West there, but they ended the season 8-1, and we know that eventually the Niners had to play the Falcons. They had the 1 seed, but Seattle almost beat them. I think it was 30-28, so they really had about as good of an end to the season as you could have had. You knew that Seattle was going to come up, but then we basically roll into that divisional game, Sage. They get another bye. They match up with Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. This was basically the culmination of Colin Kaepernick, as well as the start of a decade of ass beatings that Aaron Rodgers took by the 49ers in the playoffs.
That was the all-time. I think that was the run. What was that? It was like 42 to, I don't know if you have the score up, but I just remember you go into Green Bay, absolutely dominate them. And like you said, right? Like it was the start of just something that was going to be beautiful. The Niners beating the shit out of Aaron Rodgers, who had the quote on draft night, like, yeah, like, are you like, what is it? Are you mad that the 49ers didn't take you? And he's like, not as mad as they're going to be that they didn't take me. Mm-hmm. And it's like, maybe it is true. It probably is true, to be honest. But at the end of the day, like, he can never beat us. That was the first time, and it just set the precedent that we were going to have his number going forward through 4 different quarterbacks, like 4 different eras of it.
I know that looking back on the Colin Kaepernick era, I don't look at him too fondly, which is a little bit crazy. This has to be one of the best playoff games ever. 263 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. The game's going to be remembered for his rushing. He had 181 rushing yards. I think he broke off 2 big touchdown runs, but I don't know if you remember, Sage, the game started out very sus. I think it was the first play of the game for the Niners on offense, just throws a pick 6, and it's like, okay, is he not ready for the moment? We got Aaron Rodgers on the other side. Like, are we going to be scared here? And then he really silenced that pretty quick. Like I said, I think he had 400 scrimmage yards, 4 touchdowns, and we roll into Atlanta. What do you remember about that Atlanta team going into that game?
I just remember, like, it was the start of something, right? Like Matty Ice, I think.
Yeah.
So it was like the Matty Ice Flacco thing where it's like these guys were supposed to be the next wave, like the next 2 when they were drafted, right? And I just remember like that offense, they had young receivers. They had Julio and White, right? At the time.
Yeah, Julio, Roddy White, Michael Turner in the backfield. They They had a great offense.
And I just remember never really because we never played them. So I never really thought much of them. It was just going to be an interesting game. I just remember we kept falling behind. And it was just one of those things during the game where I thought we were going to lose the entire time.
Yeah, so it was a tough one. So they started out down 17-0. I think Julio had 2 touchdowns and 100 yards, 5 seconds into the second quarter. It was something crazy like that. I don't know, Sage. We're going to talk about it with the Super Bowl coming up, where the 49ers go into a party city, show up very slow at the start of the game. Any chance that some of the guys on the D-line hit Magic City beforehand? Because I remember they did not look like the team that I saw the past 18 weeks, and they were just getting their ass kicked by Atlanta. It was 17-0. For a second there, you thought it was over, in the second quarter. It was that bad.
I wouldn't put it past them. Once you find out what you found out Super Bowl week in NOLA, then you start to kind of, run your head by it. But, when you win, it goes away, right? A win's like makeup. It covers up the ugly. When you lose, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit not as cute.
Do you think they thought they were so badass? They're it actually doesn't matter. I think there was a lot of stories about that Deion Sanders season where the Niners won the Super Bowl in 94. And he was partying the night before the Super Bowl. And I think that one was in Miami. And Jerry Rice is going up to me. He's like, what the hell are you doing? We have to play tomorrow. He's like, dude, we're favored by 18.5 points. We're going to kick the shit out of these guys. Calm down. Have fun. Is there any chance that the Niners, with that offense and with that defense, actually thought they were on that level?
I bet you they did. I mean, that defense
probably too.
Because I feel like they understood, when you got past what you got past, looking at the task at hand, they probably didn't think Atlanta was shit. And when they got to the Super Bowl, they probably thought okay, this is an old ass Ravens team with a young quarterback. They ain't shit either. We can do whatever we want. We're going to win this game either way.
Yeah. And I think that even though they made it to the Super Bowl, not a lot of memories from this game. The Niners basically right after they went down 17-0, they started mounting a comeback. I think they cut it to 24-14 at a half. With about 10 minutes left, you had that classic highlight for me where Frank Gore gets a touchdown, hits the Dirty Bird celebration, and then it basically comes down to a situation where Matt Ryan has a drive to win the game, and then it was that 4th and 5 where it was Navarro Bowman, right?
Yeah, it was Bowman.
Yeah, it was Bowman who stops Roddy White on that 4th and 5, and they make it to the Super Bowl. First time since 94, but the entire narrative for those 2 weeks heading up to the Super Bowl had honestly nothing to do with the game, Sage. It was all about the Harbaughs.
The Harbaugh. The infamous
It was
Harbaugh.
all about the Harbaughs the entire time.
Yeah, from that, the Super Bowl coverage, right? They have the Super Bowl headlines. That was just too simple, too easy. It dominated. You had the half jersey splits going on. I always viewed it as the defense, right? Looking at Ray Lewis, ushering that era of what his defense was, and this up and coming Niners team that it felt like you were going to have for the next 5 to 10 years. And it just felt like it was I don't want to say a passing of the torch because the Ravens hadn't won since 2001, but it just felt like this was kind of the era, right? Here's that old school style of football in the Ravens, and here's the Niners who are kind of a dying breed, right? They're the last team who's going to end up playing like that, and it's kind of just watching the 2 generations go at it. I thought that was one of the more interesting storylines of the defense, but the Harbaughs dominated it, Kaepernick dominated it, and what the Niners did beforehand dominated it too.
Well, there was a couple different ones. So you had that Chris Culver incident where we all know the Michael Sam conversation was going around the NFL, and Chris Culver had some colorful takes on what he thought about people like Michael Sam being in NFL locker rooms. Needless to say, it was not PC, would not be accepted in 2025. A lot of drama around that. But the Ray Lewis situation, that was big. That was his last game. And which I think is one of the craziest things to ever happen. I think it was around Wednesday or Thursday. Comes out he tests positive for deer antler spray, which is literally just, it is something meant to take away in the testing. The PED showing up.
Yeah.
And nothing happened. Nothing happened.
Bro, old time football,
how
baby.
does
That's
that
just
happen?
sports, bro. That's just sports back in the day, bro. That shit doesn't fly today, but it just bro, you'd get more fly. You wouldn't be allowed to play in the Super Bowl if you put a $10 parlay on DraftKings and got caught, but you get deer antler spray pop up in your test, okay, you're good to go just because you're Ray Lewis. A little bit of a Kobe Bryant situation.
A little bit of a Kobe Bryant situation. Also, I think there was still that quarterback controversy thing going on. Like, they were interviewing Alex Smith. There was definitely no discussion on who was going to play, but for some reason, you had those clips coming up where it was, what was it, Brady Bledsoe, Montana Young, and Alex Smith Kaepernick. They were really trying to push the narrative that this was one of the biggest quarterback controversies of all time. Still into the Super Bowl when everybody knew that Kaepernick was going to be the quarterback from there on out.
What I recall is Alex Smith was not happy. Like, he was not chipper in interviews. You could tell he was pissed off about the entire situation. I mean, yeah, the guy was dealt, like you said, probably the shittiest hand, like fighting. Like 6 offensive coordinators in his first 6 years, had to fight through the worst regimes in NFL history. And he finally gets his chance, gets concussed, and it just gets taken. Like the saying, you don't lose your job to injury is such bullshit. Like, point to Alex Smith, right? Like, you lose your job from injury. It happens more times than you think.
Yeah, he lost his job. Kaepernick led them all the way to the Super Bowl. Never really got a chance to take it back, but Sage, they were favored by 5 points. I remember specifically the CBS broadcast beforehand, them sweeping the CBS broadcast. Everybody, Shannon Sharp, Boomer Esiason, Dan Marino, all picked the 49ers. You had a relatively weak team with that Ravens team, I think. They had that miracle run where they beat Tom Brady. Justin Tucker hits the game-winning field goal to win that one. And they hit that long pass to, I think it was Torrey Smith or Jacoby Jones to beat Peyton Manning and the Broncos, who were running through the AFC that year. It felt like the Niners were in poised position to get that Super Bowl and that they were the clear better team heading in. And they just got jumped on right away.
Of the 3 losses of my lifetime, this one hurts the most because it wasn't Mahomes, right? Like, it was Joe Flacco. You're going against a defense that you're better than, an offense that you're better than, and it just fell apart. You didn't come to play. It hurt so bad. Like, I was so confident going into this game. Like, I was not, like, you see me shaking? Like, I was not shaking. I was not moved. Obviously, first Super Bowl, just excited to be there and just like,
yeah, it felt great. That felt great.
You know, like, you're young, right? Like, the loss hits hard, but it doesn't. I feel like it hits harder the older you get for whatever reason, because you just think like, okay, there's going to be a bunch of chances, but speaking on the game specifically, like, it just felt like the Niners were better than this team in every aspect of the game, every facet of the game, and they blew it. Like, they straight up blew it. Like, that defense allowing 34 points to that team is honestly a disgrace.
Well, Sage, I think they start off, it's 21-6. Joe Flacco is hitting Anquan Bolden whenever he wants. There was a play where Jacoby Jones had a 51-yard touchdown, fell down on the 10, and just no one was around him, was on the ground for a couple seconds, got back up, scored the touchdown. The Niners offense was nowhere to be found. Kaepernick, I don't think had thrown the 49ers had never thrown an interception in Super Bowl history.
Yeah.
Throws one right away to Ed Reed. And they just got jumped on. 21-6 at halftime. Beyonce comes out. I don't know if we were of that age just yet, but all-time performance by Beyonce, I must say. She was looking pretty good.
Shout out Beyonce. I think, like, most people forget that she performed in that Super Bowl because the lights go out, right? Right at halftime?
No, so it wasn't a halftime, but she brings on Destiny Child. She does that entire thing. Sage, they were down 21-6, and I'll never forget. I don't know if you were ever like this as a kid, but I'm a major superstition guy. So the Niners looking like basically the Monstars in the first half of that Super Bowl. Or not the Monstars, like basically the NBA team when they couldn't, play basketball in Space Jam. They basically looked like that in the first half. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to watch the TV broadcast. I'm going to go to the garage at DeSoto. I'm going to listen on radio. Going to try to switch up the vibes. First kick, boom. Jacoby Jones takes it. I'm just listening. The 50, the 40, the 30. Right when Ted Robinson says the 20, I turn off the radio, head back in. So any hopes that you had about them coming back was just like another gut punch. It's like, okay, now we're down 28-6. Like, this could not be going any worse.
At that point too, right? Like, we got into it, right? What kind of style did the Niners play? Run the ball, protect the ball, like lean on your defense and kind of play with a lead. Everything that you thought was just out the window. We hadn't seen this team really like face this much adversity, but they did it against the Falcons. So you thought maybe there was a chance, right? Like, you saw it happen 2 weeks prior. True. So you're like, maybe they can do it, but it's the Super Bowl. Like, can they really do it twice when they've only done it once all year?
That is true. I think a lot of people who were broadcasting the game thought it was over. But We had just seen a similar situation where, like you said, they were getting their ass kicked, but then they came back. You saw that explosiveness with the offense. Then the blackout happened, Sage. I think the craziest event ever in Super Bowl history.
The blackout?
It has to be. I mean, the game was shut down for 34 minutes.
Yeah.
It's crazy looking back on it, thinking that the lights actually went out at the Super Bowl and they had to stop play for 35 minutes.
Are you tinfoil hat at all, or do you think the lights actually went out?
So looking back on it, it's so funny. They interviewed Ray Lewis after the fact, and he was convinced. He was just like, even though he had just won, coming off a game where he was allowed to play, even though he clearly took PEDs and didn't get caught for it, he was convinced that the NFL did it to help the Niners out. And it did. It helped them out for sure.
Yeah, it flipped the switch. Like literally flipped the switch for them. I mean, the team came out post that. They were humming to the point where they actually had the upper hand. Like they were projected to win. They had a probability to win at one point when they're down at the goal line. The whole narrative just flipped. I feel like the Ravens kind of like you could feel the momentum, right? Like in sports, you feel the momentum shift. They couldn't get anything going after just running a track meet up and down the field on you. Now it's like you're stifling them until you weren't. So it just felt like it felt a little sketch, but at the time, like, you know, there's no social media, like nothing really to like, everything you got was from the broadcast. We're like here, like you could see fan videos, like what's going on here. Like you just had to wait, right? For them to keep talking. What was it? It was like New Girl. They kept just like promoting New Girl and like running through their ad reads. And they just basically had to like throw it on the broadcast team, like make some magic happen for like 30 minutes or an hour for however long. Cause it's a Super Bowl. You can't just cancel it. You have to just stay there and like play through it.
Yeah, it was an awkward situation. I remember they were just going to the coaches, and Harbaugh's like looking at the sideline. He's like, you guys need to get stretching. Like, if we get started up in 10 minutes, like, we're down 22 points in the Super Bowl. It's the third quarter. Like, we need to fucking go now. But they win, Sage. I think they scored 3 straight touchdowns. Justin Tucker hit a couple field goals, and they couldn't necessarily stop the Ravens. So the Ravens were still getting a little bit on offense, but that Niners offense just started humming. Frank Gore was running all over the place. Colin Kaepernick was slinging it around the field. It really comes down to the last drive. You're down 34-29. And I think Frank Gore with so he runs it down to the Baltimore 7, 1st and goal. And then you have the 4 plays in a row, Sage. What's your thought on the fact that they did not run Colin Kaepernick once?
They didn't run Kaepernick or Gore?
Kaepernick. They didn't run Gore. I think they started off with a 2-yard run to your boy, Oregon grad, LaMichael James. I think that was just because that Frank Gore needed a rest. But still.
I mean, it's going to live. I mean, that's the part that's going to live. Like, even the comeback, whatever, it's just like the 4 straight plays, the 4 straight passes, just like.
Well, they ran the first play. But the 3 passes to Crabtree after the fact. The
3 straight passes to Crabtree. It's just, it's so bad. Like, it would never happen in the modern NFL. Like, you would get laughed out of the room with some of like the passing minds that you have in this game. Like, everything, like it does it fall on Greg Roman or does it fall on Jim Harbaugh, right? Like, Greg Roman, like, come on. Like, what are you doing? What the hell are you doing? Especially like not going to Vernon Davis once when he's clearly your best red zone guy. I can't understand it. I don't understand it. And it's just like, I don't know, like, what is the perfect play there? Because you're fighting against the clock a bit, but not really at the same time. Like, you have enough time. You want to get your best plays, but you can't just go with your best play 3 times.
Yeah, so I watched it back yesterday, Sage, and I think actually they did go one time to Vernon Davis. It was just like way over his head, but Kaepernick seemed flustered. They just brought the rush. Baltimore was just like, okay, we are going to bring 8 people every single play. And you kind of knew, like, even as I was watching it back, I even remember the feeling when I was watching the game. I didn't think they were going to get it. When it hit 3rd down and even when it hit 4th down, I was not confident they were going to get it. And I think that was the thing that we saw with Kaepernick, that there was just situations where he could not, in the pocket, be a reliable passer in big situations like that in the red zone. You would see it the next year, obviously, but I think that's the legacy of the game, that it basically came out to that drive and Kaepernick couldn't get it done and couldn't get a touchdown on those last 4 plays. And that's the sad reality of it. 2nd
and goal at the 5. To be honest, though, say they do score one, do you have any faith that the Niners stop the Ravens from getting at least a field goal?
Sage, I think they had 33 seconds left. It was like something crazy like that.
But what if they scored? Like, say they score on like the 1st or 2nd play.
I'm thinking that with that 49ers defense, you're thinking that the game's over.
You're thinking the game's out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
I don't think I'm anticipating that Joe Flacco is going to lead them and score a field goal. I know that that's probably the best game he ever played, but if you get that touchdown at the time, that's basically you won the Super Bowl, minus a major collapse on defense.
I'm thinking because the parallel I draw is like a lot of people always say, like with Moody, right in the most recent Super Bowl when he missed the extra point, that we would have won because then they would have needed a touchdown. And in my mind, I think like honestly, Mahomes probably would have just got a touchdown. 10 regulation, you would have just lost in regulation. I was just gonna say, like, with that moment, it's like I felt like if they scored, like it's game over. Like it is game over. It ends here.
That's
Like
what
there was no Brady, like nothing else on the sideline after because they would have been trailing for the first time the entire game. All the pressure just flips right back onto them, and it's like they got to go get a field goal. Like it just felt like it wouldn't have happened, and you collapse, man. Like the play call, the execution, it was all just shit.
I mean, the image that's going to be burned into all of our heads is Jim Harbaugh. I don't know, like a homeless person asking for food on the side of the street, asking for a hold.
Yeah.
Just tough. And then you see, obviously, that John Harbaugh wins. They show the parents, and it's just like, okay, I don't give a shit about the Harbaugh anymore. Like, my team just lost the Super Bowl. And that was really the first taste of pure heartbreak. So I thought this was the best team of the era, Sage. I really did. I think that with the fact they had Kaepernick basically lighting up the NFL and really that the entire NFL not having an answer for his run game, I just thought that that was the most untouchable the Harbaugh Niners ever were.
I feel like you can't even argue it. I feel like you can't disagree because it was the best the offense was. And I don't think it was the best defense of the year. I think the 2011 defense was better, but it was almost as good, right? Like it was somewhat the same personnel, a little bit different, but it was just as good in almost every aspect. Maybe not as good running, but the offense just having that boost, like getting the Kaepernick supercharge. I felt like there was a reason they kind of ran through the NFC the entire year.
Yeah. No, the team was great. And even though they lost in the Super Bowl, still, I felt like this team still had legs and they were going to definitely be contenders heading into the next year. I think it was like 2 months after Anquan Bolden just rips our hearts out in the Super Bowl. We signed Anquan Bolden. That was really the big addition there. A lot of misses in the draft these 2 years as well. So you really had nobody else coming in. That was something we didn't know was coming, that you'd never really had young talent coming into the mix.
Shout out Trent Baalke.
Yeah, blame Trent Baalke. But week 2, do you remember the Sunday Night Football game, Sage?
Of the 2014 year?
2013.
No.
So I'll never forget it. So they're matching up against,
I don't remember. Yeah, tell me the team. So, I might remember the game.
Yeah, so they're matching up against Seattle, week 2 NFL or Sunday Night Football. They have Sean out. I'll never forget. I was at Cabrillo. My cousin Matt was cooking up burgers for us. We were getting set up because everybody was hyping this up. This was a new NFL rivalry, and they were just about to basically put the league on notice. Sean Alexander was waving the 12 flag, getting everybody hyped up, and we just got battered.
Yeah, we got battered. Yeah.
Battered, Sage. I think Kaepernick threw 3 interceptions. He threw one to each of them. He threw one to Cam Chancellor, one to Richard Sherman, one to Earl Thomas. Marshawn Lynch had 120 yards, 3 touchdowns. And I think Frank Gore got held to about 16 yards. But this was the moment for me when it was like, okay, we're coming off a great year in 2011. We're coming off a Super Bowl appearance, but it seemed like the Seahawks had the advantage there.
Yeah, 100%. That's when you kind of felt like you were a little brother. Like, we can't beat them. Like, I don't care about anything in the AFC. You can't even look across. It's almost like the Bills with the Chiefs, right? Where it's like, I'm just happy to get to the Super Bowl. Like, I just need to get past this team, right? Like, you can't even look across to it because you just know, like, this is, and they're in your division. They're tougher than you. They kind of like bitch you where they do, like, they're the same kind of team you are, but they do everything a little better. They're a little better on defense. They have a badass secondary. They hit a little harder than you, and they run the ball a little better than you. So it just felt like in every aspect of the game, they were just a better version of you.
I was about to say, it's almost like a Godzilla versus King Kong situation where, like you brought up, they have the exact same entire structure of their team. The defense, the run game, the mobile quarterback. And it did just seem like they were a little bit better. But it was almost like you were looking into a mirror, right? They had the same entire structure. They were both going for the NFC West. The Niners had a badass year. They were 12-4, but I think they lost to the Seahawks in the NFC West by 1 game. So if they were going to make it back to the Super Bowl, they had to go all the way through as a wild card. Another game where we go up against Aaron Rodgers. I'll just remember this as the Phil Dawson game where I think he hit 3 field goals and it was a minus 15-degree wind chill and nobody could catch the ball.
Yeah, that was a little different than the other ones. That game, I feel like that game was a little boring.
It was the least memorable 49er playoff win, I think, of all time.
Like, is it like, does anything stand out to you about that game that like you'll ever remember it for? It just was like a normal football game that the Niners just eked out at the end, right? Game-winning field goal at the end to kind of ice it by, was it Dawson?
Yeah, so it was Dawson. He had a 33-yarder. It seemed like the Niners were always in control of that game, but it was kind of a close finish. It came down to the last drive. It was 2020. Phil Dawson hits it with 0 seconds left on the clock. So it was a great game. That wasn't the best Packers team, though. I think that was a year where Aaron Rodgers came back middle of the year from injury. They were 8-7-1. They had just eked out the NFC North title. So not definitely a memorable game, but I think that divisional against the Panthers is one of my all-time favorite wins. I don't know about you.
Yeah, the day game. The memory I have that's like stuck in my head is when he was pointing at the turf. I forget who caught the touchdown. Was it where he got his feet in and they called
Vernon
him out?
Davis? It was Vernon Davis.
Yeah, it was VD. He got, and he was just pointing to the turf like you could see his cleats here. And they replayed it. That was like the beginning of Cam too, right? Just beat the shit out of Oregon like a few years back. Like this was kind of my reckoning against him, and they shut him down. They shut him down, forced 2 turnovers, and it kind of felt like the Niners had kind of gotten their swag back.
What's crazy, too, is that this was Cam's 3rd year. It was really the year, like you said, when he came onto the scene in the NFL. I think people forget how good this Panthers team was, though. This is a couple of years before that year where they make it to the Super Bowl, go 15-1. You have that offense that's led by Cam Newton, but you got weapons across the board like Steve Smith, Greg Olsen. Great duo of running backs, D'Angelo Williams, Jonathan Stewart. Obviously, mix that in with Cam Newton. It's one of the best run games in the NFL. And then Kuechly, Thomas Davis, Josh Norman on the other hand.
That defense was badass, bro. I mean, like that was I think they were the number 1 ranked defense that year. That's like kind of like when they started. Like they had that 3-year stretch. Actually, it was probably Seattle, but I think there was like a 3-year stretch where they were like the most badass defense.
They were up there.
Yeah.
Maybe not a guy who's aged that great. Also, great All-Pro D lineman on that team, Greg Hardy.
Shout out Greg Hardy, my God.
Shout out Greg Hardy. Where's he at? Is he like doing boxing matches in Saudi Arabia? Just getting.
I know he's retired from the UFC. I don't know if he's retired or they just dropped his ass. I don't know. He's probably doing some like Korean boxing league.
Probably something like that.
I don't even know. Yeah.
He's probably just on his way to hell. Like, oh my God. Have you ever seen the videos of that guy?
That guy's crazy. I'm not going to say anything bad about that guy.
It was like the AKs on the bed. It's just like, oh my God, this guy's an all-time piece of shit. And everybody's rooted against him. But that team was great. I think earlier in that year, Sage, they actually beat the Niners at Candlestick. I think it was 10-9. And that's when it stood out to me. It's like, okay, this defense is legit. You have Cam Newton on the other side. Like, this is an actual contender, but really dominated the entire game. I think it was that Vernon Davis touchdown gave them the lead right before half, and then Cam threw a couple picks. Even though they were the home team, had the bye, the Niners were favored by 2.5. I look back on it. So Vegas knew. It was basically the entire season was just to get to Seattle 49ers in that NFC Championship game.
I said the Niners had the disadvantage of it not being the NBA, where if you don't win your division, you can't get a home playoff game. And it was just unfortunate. I mean, the Niners were the second best team in the NFC. Like you said, like losing the division, they just had a harder hill to climb to get to the inevitable, because everyone knew it was going to come down to that NFC Championship game. Niners versus Seahawks, which I wouldn't say is the toughest loss, but it's probably the most heartbreaking loss. Because
I mean, were you ever more hyped up for a game? I don't even know if I was more hyped for the Super Bowl against the Ravens. Like, I think you have to be just because it's a Super Bowl, but definitely minus Super Bowls, the most hyped up I've ever been for a game in my life.
Casey, what hurts more, when Russell Wilson comes back on the Niners or when Mahomes does it? Like, what's more like nightmares?
I think Russell Wilson, because I kind of like going through the notes of this game. I don't really want to do it any disservice. Like, go back, look at the game. That was the NFL at its peak. That's when you had just like defenses going head up against each other. That's where you could hit a quarterback, like break his fucking back, and a flag wouldn't even get thrown. if you went across the middle, you were risking your life. I watched a little bit of that game stage. That really just threw me back to a different time. That was some of the best NFL matchups I've seen in my life, and I think I'll ever see.
Yeah, in my opinion, that was just like peak football, right? Like I think I've made this
Yeah.
this point before. Like I feel like the NBA, the talent gets better every year, but in the NFL, it seems like that time period, like the talent that they had on offense and defense was just peak. Where now it seems like it's a little like favored on one side. I mean, that game, like I felt like looking back on it, I guess like I misremembered it. I felt like the Niners dominated it all the way until the end. And then I went back and watching, like it really was back and forth, but it was just that fourth quarter. They collapsed. Like it's going to be the legacy of those Harbaugh Niner teams is that they were always right there and just let go of the rope right at the end. And they just could never just hold it down for 4 quarters, a whole season, whatever it could be.
I mean, it came down to that last drive stage. I think they get a stop on the Seahawks. Navarro Bowman, we all know, has that leg break, which is just heartbreaking. But you do hold them to a field goal. You're only down 6. Touchdown to win the game. And I think there was about maybe 4 or 5 minutes left. Kaepernick hits, I don't know if you remember this one, Sage. Very underrated play. 4th and 2 on their own 30. Hits Frank Gore on a 17-yard catch.
Yeah, well, I was just
electricity. I was watching it back. I'm like, oh, shit. I didn't even recognize that they were down to 4th and 2 on their own 30.
No, I didn't remember the play until I went and rewatched it last night.
Yeah, but they convert that. They get it down, I believe, it was to the 18 with 30 seconds left. You have 2 timeouts. Where do you stand? The clock running. Should there have been a timeout there?
Yeah, you 100% should call a timeout.
Yeah.
With your quarterback, like what you have, like settle down, get the right play. Because when you're going, it's scrambles. I get it because, you have the defense on their toes. But if you have like a Tom Brady, a Peyton Manning, someone who's like, going to dissect, read the defense and kind of like assert the situation, I feel like the Seahawks kind of have the advantage because of how good their defense was and what you could have set up. It was a fumble, to be honest. It was a fumble.
Harbaugh got a lot of flack for that one. That's something I remember in the aftermath of that game. Everybody thought that you have a young quarterback. You're on that last drive. You have 2 timeouts in your pocket. Settle down, get some right plays, stop the clock, and get set up to win the game. Most infamous play in Bay Area sports history? Minus the Kyrie Irving 3?
I was going to say the block by James.
Block by James, yeah. But, I mean, Richard Sherman's pick.
Yeah.
Or the tip.
Yeah.
To the pick. Has to be among the worst of my lifetime.
It's up there. It's top 4. I think the block by James will forever live because of the call and everything. And then
73-9 year. It's all of that.
Yeah. That's up there too. I mean, while we're pouring on the heartbreak and just like the terrible, like cold sweats here, like let's just bring up everything. So there's from the top of my head, like there's that. I mean, nothing from the Giants really stands out. It's going to be all Niners, like the Tyreek Hill,
30-17, the 30-17.
The fumble. I mean, the fumble's not that bad, to be honest. It doesn't stick out as much.
The fumble's pretty fucking bad. I remember that as very black stain, but I think just losing on that last play, getting shotgunned at the end of OT in the Super Bowl, that sucked.
Yeah. So that fumble, the Kyle Williams fumbles, both of them, take your pick. They just come as a package, actually. There's a lot, bro. Being a Niners fan, that gives you a lifetime's worth from the past 15 years.
I mean, yeah, we could point to all these moments, Sage. I will say this. Even though that may not be the worst moment in 49er or in Bay Area sports history, I think this is the worst 5 minutes in Bay Area sports history. So you had that Navarro Bowman knee torn, right? Then you had the Sherman interception. Right after that, Sherman's getting all up in Crabtree's face. Crabtree gets called for a personal foul after just like shoving his face in. You have that. You have images of the 12 celebrating. You have Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll hugging each other. And then you have that Richard Sherman interview, which just nightmares. Nightmares thinking about when Aaron Andrews started that interview with Richard Sherman.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that was the start of it. And it just seemed like for like a decade long until the Seahawks kind of died down that we just could never beat this team. And that they kind of just owned us. Like that solidified it. It was building up to it, but you just couldn't beat them because that was your game. You played your A+ game after getting embarrassed in Seattle your previous 2 times. And then it culminates to you just absolutely blowing that last 5 minutes. And then them celebrating in your face like that.
How many TVs do you think got busted out in the Bay Area with Richard Sherman just being like, Don't you ever talk about me.
I think like 80% were probably in Vallejo, but like a bunch.
I'd say at least 500. I think at least 500. I mean, I going back on it, I actually thought about it. It's kind of funny the turn that Richard Sherman took. He's like more of a Niner now than a Seahawks.
He's literally more of a Niner.
If you would have told me that after that game, I'd be like, get the fuck out. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what drugs
he rides for the Niners, bro.
Like, what drugs are you talking? What drugs are you taking? Like, what do you mean Richard Sherman's gonna look back at himself more as a Niner than a fucking Seahawk? Are you joking with me? Is this like a sick joke he's playing?
It's literally the biggest turnaround I've ever seen. Like going from that to what would even be second? I can't even think about it.
Like the Terminator, maybe the Terminator. Like the Terminator is bad in 1, and then the number 2 he's like the savior.
What about
that's a big turnaround. That's a big one.
I was gonna say is it like Montana, kind of like in the Super Bowls being like a Chiefs Niners guy, but it's not as deep as that.
That's like a betrayal. Maybe that's like a Robert the Bruce and Braveheart. Where it's like he's the king of Scotland, and then William Wallace knocks him off, and he's fighting for the English. That's a big one. But
yeah.
No, it's sad looking back on. It's sad looking back on Sage, and I think the saddest part about it is that we didn't know at the time, but that was basically the end of the entire era, right there.
That was it. That was it. Going into the last year, you kind of knew that was Harbaugh's last year. It was a tumultuous ending, right? Like the team falls apart directly after it, and the vibes were just always off.
Did it hurt a little bit more that the Seahawks kicked the ever-loving shit out of the Denver Broncos in the Super Bowl? So you basically knew that if you would have won that game, you would have
They would have found a way to blow it.
To a Super Bowl.
They would have found a way to blow it. I promise.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, they were basically evenly matched with the Seahawks, and the Broncos should not have been on the same field as the Seahawks in that Super Bowl.
I'm as sure as possible. That Broncos offense was legit. Like, legit.
Yeah, until they actually went up against a legit defense and they couldn't fucking move the ball.
Well, that was like the year where, like, week 1, they played the Ravens and just absolutely blitzed them.
Yeah, I think Peyton had, 6 or 7 touchdowns? It was something crazy like that.
6 touchdowns.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they would have won that game, but really quickly before we close this out here, 2014. I don't know. Do you remember this, Sage? I remember week 1 of that next year. Glazer just comes out on Fox right away.
Yeah.
Says, no matter what, even if they win the Super Bowl, Jim Harbaugh's out as the 49ers head coach at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And the Ray McDonald situation, injuries, turkey on the 50, years straight from hell. That's all I remember 2014 as.
Yeah, it's like the poster child for Super Bowl hangover, like the team that loses that. But it was just the NFC Championship game hangover, where you come off the most like heartbreaking loss. I mean, the structure, the organization, the hierarchy is just like shaken from it. I mean, it seemed like Balky and Harbaugh liked each other at first. Now it's like they're fighting over personnel, who has control. Jed York's siding. I think
it was a York play.
York's siding with Balky. It seems like York kind of, was tired of Harbaugh. You know the saying, like the candle that burns twice as bright burns twice as fast. Like I feel like that's kind of Harbaugh, where like he has that energy, like kind of has that like, culture, that dominating figure. But you see him on the sideline, like all the clips of him mic'd up, yelling, like going crazy. Like it's cool on TV, but the people who actually work with him and kind of have to take orders and like give him orders, like they probably get sick of it after a while. And it just felt like it all culminated that offseason, and it was just like, it's it. There's no coming back from this.
Well, there's a lot of stories. So apparently Jed York would try to bring advertisers around and show them inside the 49ers locker room when Jim Harbaugh was the coach. And then Jim Harbaugh would just be looking at them coming in the room. He's like, what's going on? Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, I'm talking to my team right now. So I just think that it was a situation where Jed York had been the owner for about 8 years. And I think it was a personality clash with him and Harbaugh. I think that he genuinely did not like Harbaugh. We know that he's a tough personality. You've seen that everywhere that Harbaugh's went, but I think it was a Jed York move, and people hated his guts after that. With due reason. I mean, he hired Jim Tom Sula, which had to be the worst head coaching hire in NFL history.
Who's that one coach for the Giants who kind of looked like Jim Tom Sula?
Are you talking about is it McAdoo? McAdoo?
Yeah, was it McAdoo?
I think it might have been McAdoo. Where McAdoo had that one good year, and then it just fell apart in the second year. It could be somebody else, though.
Maybe. I'll find it. They remind me of each other. They're just like, if you just go like Colin Cowherd, like looks for the job, like this guy just doesn't look like he's an NFL head coach. Is that
So
like having Ron
Colin
Jeremy
Cowherd
on the
was on
sideline?
the air just ripping this guy's looks and saying he's not handsome enough to be an NFL coach? Was that
Pretty
actually
much,
happening?
yeah. Yes.
Colin kind of does that from time to time. I mean, he had the entire quarterback face thing, which, to be fair, I think is true. I mean,
It is true.
how often do you see a butt ugly ass quarterback who's
I
like
think
good? You know what I mean?
I think there's been like two, maybe. Like, I mean, like Mahomes is like the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
And then like the second one would be like, I'm just not going to say it.
Are you talking about a Baltimore Ravens quarterback?
I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, maybe let's just steer clear of that. Maybe, let's just keep this to remembrance of the Harbaugh years. But what I will say is that after you fire Harbaugh, it's probably the worst 5-year stretch in Niner history. Right away, right? You have Jim Tomsula, that goes up in flames, and then Chip Kelly.
Chip Kelly.
I think Chip Kelly was even worse. It was like,
No.
What are we doing here? Chip Kelly has already proven that he's a terrible NFL coach. He got ran out of Philadelphia.
He has his,
everybody hated his guts.
He has his second chance this year. We'll see how it goes. But I mean, he's not a head coach, but he's an OC. But
Raiders,
that was just like as dark of a time as it could be. That's when you're just like tanking, hoping you can get that quarterback. Like the Kaepernick situation. I mean, because Kaepernick lingered around until 2017, right? Or was it 2018? And he was kind of just like in and out. Like he was starting, like do some things off the field. It was getting a little like, what the hell's going on with this guy? He's growing his hair out now. Like he's speaking a lot off the field. It was just a really weird time to be a fan. Like this is the guy you paid all this money to. You give him this platform. Like everything's just going weird. It seemed like it was the Niners were about everything but the football. It got like very, very just like blurred, like gray lines, like real quick.
I'll be honest. I think in that Chip Kelly year, I was out.
You know
I think I was that fed up with them. I'm not going to even say that it was because of the political stuff with Colin Kaepernick, but just the fact that was the conversation about the Niners across the national media, just what was going on with the national anthem. They were getting their ass kicked on the football field. They had no talent whatsoever. Colin Kaepernick clearly did not look like he was going to be the future of the franchise. I think that was as low I ever got as a 49ers fan.
I think the 2014 offseason was as low as it went. Where like you have everyone leave, like you have all the you had was it that the year like Patrick Willis retired, like Chris Borland retired? You lose everyone. Like it was just like such a weird offseason that I was like, what the hell just happened? Like it was like you just got hit by hit with like a roofie and an uppercut at the same time. You just like wake up like dazed.
Yeah, I guess it's like what's worse when your girlfriend that you love leaves you like 3 months later, or the 5 years after when you still haven't found anyone and you're just remembering her. That was basically what it is. You know what I mean? Like, what's worse, really?
Dude, it's hard to say like what's like the lowest point of being a Niner fan when they haven't really provided us much since. It's just been all heartbreak.
Is that the legacy of this Jim Harbaugh team, though? That
100%.
Even though he did bring winning football back to the Bay, and it was our first time ever experiencing that, does it really just come down to the playoff losses? I feel like it has to, which sucks at the end of the day.
It does. No, 100%. I think that's his. I mean, like he won the national championship with Michigan,
which was huge. Everybody labeled him like not winning the big game. That was his thing.
It was a monkey off his back, but I still view like in the NFL, like that is his legacy, right? Like even with the Chargers last year, like the way they just went out there and shit themselves in the playoffs. Like, I don't know, man. Like, did you ever like, and we could get into it, but like, if you're a great coach, like there shouldn't be moments where your team seems unprepared. And there was times where like this team just seemed unprepared, like in big games, big spots,
big
games. And it's just one of those things where it's like, that's kind of going to be like what the fans remember. Like you have no hardware to show. So they're going to point to what went wrong. And that's going to be the first thing they always look at. So it's sad. Like we're going to go through it, like how great, or we went through how great these teams were and their legacy, like the remembrance of them is they just could never get it done.
I mean, I remember some of that stuff coming up with Harbaugh. The time management was not great. Right?
Yeah.
You had a lot of times where you came into big games and like you brought up, they were not ready to play. I think ever since he won that championship, I think he's got 5 years, Sage. I think he's got 5 years of just being labeled as one of the better guys in the NFL, in all of football. So we'll see. But yeah, it sucks to say that that's probably going to be the lasting legacy of the Harbaugh years, but you definitely had a lot of good memories across the board.
A lot. I mean, there was a lot to get into, like everything that like each year was like its own story. I feel like you have the Super Bowl year, then you have like the Seattle rivalry building up. You have the mini Alex Smith Kaepernick thing. I feel like we did it. I mean, it's funny because it's 4 years. It really just feels like 3.5 because 2014 just feels like a total wash. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I know. I think we did a good job, Sage. I mean, we covered everything. We covered beforehand. We covered all the way through, all the way up until Shanahan. But that gets us into our last topic. We want to chop this up. We want to make a TikTok out of this. But, Sage, I got to pose the question. You got Jim Harbaugh returning to the Bay Area for the first time since 2014. Kyle Shanahan has been running the Bay for the past 6 years, led the Niners to 2 Super Bowls. He's had his success with the 49ers. Who do you think is the better coach, Harbaugh or Shanahan?
Are we going strictly Niners or are we going just in general? Who would I rather have?
Strictly NFL football.
Okay. I say this with no doubt in my mind that Kyle Shanahan is the better coach.
Wow. I did not think you were going to go that way.
I think Kyle Shanahan's like light years ahead of Jim Harbaugh for a variety of reasons, right? Harbaugh, with his time with the Niners, what did he need? He needed Vic Fangio. He needed Greg Roman. Like, he needs his coordinators. He doesn't have his scheme. He doesn't have his style. He doesn't have his own kind of brand of football. He creates a culture, which is something that he does better than Kyle, which I do like acknowledge. He did that his first year with the Chargers, took over the Niners and built like a culture right away, right? Like we said, like he misused the assets let me start over here. The Niners before Harbaugh got there was a skilled team of misused assets. He got there. He understood his personnel. He built the culture from the ground up, right? Established that defense, established that run game, and they had an identity. He carried it over with the Chargers. They have that same identity, similar to what those Niners teams had. But he doesn't have the genius, right? Like the mind, the X's and O's, that the breakdown of what Shanahan has, the ability to adapt your offense to your personnel. We got Christian McCaffrey mid-year. Do you know what? We're about to put a whole offense around Christian McCaffrey and flip our identity right here. We got these receivers. We got this run game, whatever it may be. Like, we're going to be able to go, like, flip on the go and build something, like, special, like, build an offense that no one's seen before. So I lean Kyle because he lost coordinators, right? Like, he built this team from the ground up. Harbaugh inherited a good team, and it kind of, like, burnt out on him quick. I just think, like, from what I've seen, like, Shanahan has done it with less, could do more with less, did more with more, and I just lean Shanahan.
I agree with you, Sage. I think any way you cut it, I got to go with Kyle Shanahan over Jim Harbaugh. If you look at it, what does Jim Harbaugh really do better than Kyle Shanahan? You brought up build a culture, Sage. I don't know. I feel like this Niners team has had great culture. You got veteran leadership across the board. They play a smash mouth style of offense, and the big thing with me is that Kyle Shanahan is a genius play caller. He's changed how offenses play in the NFL. Jim Harbaugh did have guys like Vic Fangio, Greg Roman. He's that culture guy. He's not really the X's and O's guy. The one thing, too, I think that stands out is that Shanahan built this team from the ground up, especially when it comes to the Niners. I know that he has a lot of success with the Chargers right now, but Shanahan really took that roster from Chip Kelly. It had nobody. He got that in 2 years to be a Super Bowl contending team. Harbaugh had a lot of talent, and I just think when you're thinking about being the coach of a franchise, being the leader of a franchise, Harbaugh is like a shooting star, right? After about 4 years, he burns out. Everybody gets sick of his personality, which is why he's so good at the start of his tenure, but it only lasts so long. I feel like Shanahan, he just needs to get that Super Bowl. Then he's basically locked in for 20 years as a Niners coach. So maybe not right now. Maybe people won't see it like this, but I think you got to say, when it's all said and done, Kyle Shanahan's going to be known as the better coach for the 49ers.
I definitely, like, I agree with you in many spots, like your shooting star reference, right? Like I said, with the candle that burns twice as bright, like, he has a much shorter shelf life. It seems like he rubs dry on a lot of people quickly, and that his, like, overwhelming, like, personality, what he brings with him, it kind of, like, you have a smaller window, where with Kyle, you've seen him do it with multiple quarterbacks, right? He's done it across multiple schemes, different types of, like, eras of the Niners teams. Like, you look at that 2023 roster versus that 2019 roster, it's much different. And he's building it again, right, with these young guys. And I just trust him, right? Like, to make chicken salad out of chicken shit. You could give him some broken parts and he's going to produce a good offense. Jim just too dependent on his coordinators. And I will say, though, one thing that I feel like that Kyle Shanahan doesn't plays from like a upper advantages. He does have John Lynch. Those guys are a package deal, and they're kind of joined at the hip, where I feel like Harbaugh never really had that fluid, just like consistency with his GM, like the relationship that John and Kyle have. All that being said, it comes back to he built it up. He's able to create this offense from his own mind, and that's why I just got to lean with him. I feel more safe with that guy calling my plays.
I will say, if you threw them into a small room, how long do you think Kyle Shanahan would last before Jim Harbaugh comes out just like victorious? I don't think I'd give Kyle Shanahan 30 seconds. I think Harbaugh would have that within 30 seconds. Like, it'd be over.
That's
He'd
easy,
come out
buddy.
the victor.
Come on, bro. That's small potatoes.
I guess so, Sager. But all right, we're up to what now, Sage? This is probably the longest stream we did since what? Warrior season?
No, I mean we had. I don't know if we ever
right?
had Warriors ones went pretty long. Yeah,
probably like Game 7 Warriors or something like that.
Game 7 after the Rockets was a big one. We had. I mean, when the season ended, we had a really big like debrief, just like going through everything.
We did. How pumped are you for Saturday?
I'm not.
Are you gonna watch it?
0%. I'm gonna tune in. I mean, come on, the Niners are. Like I'll tune in for the trade drives.
That's a tough time.
Come on, bro. Like I'll tune in for the trade drives, but there's so much going on that like I can wait for the season. We're what? 13 days away now? No, less.
No, is it less than 13 days? No way.
But it's next Sunday.
I think we're 16 days away. I think it's 9/7.
9/7. Okay, so yeah, we're right there.
We're getting there, man. I mean, hopefully we could just get a little bit healthy. When are we going to come back, Sage? Are we thinking just Monday?
Monday.
After that game, Monday, whatever happens?
Monday's been doing well. I think Saturday night might be tough given the circumstance and what there's going to be on the field. But I think that's our last Monday stream before we start, pumping out. Or actually, no. Do we have another one? Dude, my calendar's all fucked up. But I think after that, we'll go.
Yeah.
We'll go strictly after the Niners game. So you can find us, Red Note, catch us live on YouTube. We're going live on Twitter, everywhere. So be sure to tune in, subscribe, be here for it.
We haven't checked out the TikTok, I think, in about a couple hours. I'm hoping that those Trey Lance TikToks just blew up.
Hit the
That's the big combo. I think that's the way bigger combo than the Jim Harbaugh part of it.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like Niners fans are more interested in it. I feel I think Niner fans are so like, I don't know. Like, I feel like they're just so in the now that like the Jim Harbaugh thing, like it's a cute story, but they care more about like the quarterback that they drafted second overall. Like the Harbaugh thing just seems like a lifetime ago.
Isn't that crazy, though, looking back on it, that in a game where both these guys are returning to play the 49ers for the first time, that Trey Lance is viewed as like the more impactful 49er than Jim Harbaugh? Like, who would have thought we would have ever gotten there?
The more memorable one.
Trey Lance is more the fucking conversation than Jim Harbaugh coming back to the Niners. It almost makes me want to throw up.
It's weird.
It's weird. But, all right, that's going to be it for the stream today, guys. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on IG. Follow us on TikTok. We're probably going to be coming to you Monday, so look out for a tweet when we're going to be coming to you guys next. But that's going to be it for the stream today. We'll talk to you later.